about 22 degrees from 299 Queen Street West. This is Toronto's breaking news. CP24 continuing live special coverage of the G20 protest that took over the streets of Toronto this afternoon. It began in a peaceful manner. It ended in violence. It is still going on. We're going to give you more details in just a moment. A day that Torontonians will not forget. Thousands of protesters poured into the streets early this afternoon. After a quiet start, the situation turned violent. Police cruisers were set on fire at King and Bay, right in the heart of the financial district. A police cruiser was attacked with officers inside at Queen and Spadina. Windows have been smashed across all points in between. Police in riot gear are still patrolling the core. Of course, there have been a number of arrests. We're hearing about 65 so far, and more to come. The violence so far has kept up right up to this moment. The police cruiser erupted in flames shortly after 6 o'clock on Queen Street, just east of Spadina. It was at least 5 minutes before police responded and cleared the crowd away from the fire. 3 marked police cruisers were destroyed by the fire. Several others were spray painted and windows were smashed. Hard to believe that this is in Toronto. Shortly after this fire was set, a crowd of police in riot gear made an arrest. They found a suspect lying on the ground nearby. Witnesses tell police the man was in the car moments before the fire was set. Right at the center of all of this, our special correspondent, Craig Kielburger, who has seen so many protests, probably nothing ever like this in Toronto. The situation at Queen's Park right now, Craig, what's going on?
It is a tense standoff where the police have been conceding and then reclaiming ground for the past 2 hours. At some points, they used mounted units, at which point, about 20 minutes ago, they did a full charge into the crowd to push people back to reclaim some ground that they had given earlier when they regrouped. It's interesting to note that the police have, as you shared, done a series of arrests. We've been witnessing this. I'm now at the southeast corner of Queen's Park, which is their area where they've been processing those who've been arrested. We've seen them charge beyond police ranks to grab an individual, circle with police officers, and then bring back into their ranks. The interesting part, though, is that the people who have been charging out have been plainclothes police officer, men and women that one couldn't easily identify as police, who have run out into the crowds to grab individuals and then to bring them back for processing. At the moment, the crowds continue to chant things like "Whose street? Our street," but it's largely a group where there's no visual representation from the so-called Black Bloc. We, at one point, a couple hours ago, saw a group of young people who were all dressed in black, who were wearing black bandanas, remove those clothes, and they had ordinary street clothes underneath, and then are quickly blended into the general public. So it's unclear whether they're still part of this protest group, or this is a mix of students and onlookers and individuals who have gathered to look at this unprecedented happening in Toronto. Just as I'm sharing with you one additional point, a whole new group of riot gear police are arriving right in front of me. Another 60 of them are marching up, taking their position behind the mounted unit, and it's unclear if they're going to try to grab more land. A second group has now just arrived. They're offloading from a series of coach buses.
Craig Kielburger, give us a sense. We had a shot just a moment ago of Queen's Park and College, and we saw people crossing the street. Some stopped, dressed in black, turned their backs to us, but had they were facing police. Where are the protesters?
The protesters are on the lawn in front of the legislature buildings at the moment. They've also kind of scattered on both sides of University, on the College side, east and west of University. The police have created what one could imagine as a square right in the heart on the most southern tip of the Queen's Park, down to the University and the various hospitals, and on both sides of College, where they have, both sides of University on College, where they have closed off and they have a protected square where they have their buses, where they're offloading additional officers, and they also have their processing unit. I have attended more than a dozen protests, or witnessed more than a dozen protests in the past, and I've never seen a protest at a region that is so open. The Canadians are, of course, familiar with the 2001 same protest against the free trade area of the Americas that took place in Quebec City. Small, narrow streets in that case. Here, the police were covering a massive geographic area, and often were only one line deep, and they had to concede ground and to double or triple the lines when people started to throw items or to taunt them, and here they slowly move forward one at a time. It's also, to my, literally as all this is unfolding as I'm speaking with you on the phone, there are more police in riot gear who are now unfolding. They've arrived in a series of black suburban vans, a whole delegation putting on their masks, shooting up on the near Yonge and College, and now approaching by foot towards University and College to join the group that's here.
Craig Kielberger, we've also been looking at shots of police lined up on Queen Street, just a little bit west of us as well. What do you know about that situation?
Only what we've been hearing from the social networking. Of course, you shared earlier when you saw the police van on fire. We've been following this protest for the past 4+ hours now, where we witnessed that critical juncture. What you're describing on Queen Street was really where the protest shifted from a peaceful demonstration to the demonstration that can only be described as a violent gathering. It was when the labor unions and Greenpeace and various other NGOs marched along Queen and then turned to go north on Spadina. There was an empty gap at the end of the protest, and a group best described as the Black Bloc raced in, catching police by surprise. And I stood there and watched as 2 police cruisers were overwhelmed at that moment. A female police officer and 2 males who looked visibly shaken as the front was smashed to their window, as they went scrambling for cover. They briefly tried to hold their ground and very quickly conceded to the large group. 2 police cruisers were overwhelmed at that point. At another point at Bay and Wellington, I saw a dozen officers not in riot gear trying to hold their ground quite violently against an approaching group that was throwing items at them. Again, visibly looking worried, visibly looking shaken. They conceded that ground. And as we followed throughout the course of the demonstration over the past hours, the most noteworthy fact that I've heard from people on the street who have been surprised by the arrival of this gathering, they've asked the question, where are the police officers? Because here at Queen's Park is the first show of force that we've seen of police. For an extended period of time, this group was able to smash windows, vandalize, the Eden Center, University and College. They did scare a number of drivers who caught unexpectedly in the traffic. I did see them at one point strike security guards with great violence who attempted to...
Now we're watching, Craig, I have to interrupt you. We're watching something unfolding live here. It's right at our doorstep, and it is protesters are running away from police, and they are just down the street from us, and we have a line of police, and I want to bring Stephanie Smythe in on this one. Stephanie, what we're seeing right now is unfolding once again. Police have lined up. They are looking like they're being proactive on this one. Steph?
Yes, and I'm here, and I'm watching these pictures. I was just out on Queen Street a few minutes ago. It's amazing how things are turning so quickly, and as I was outside around Queen and John, many of the riot police were getting back on the buses. Things seem to have calmed down. The fire of that police car was out, the one at Queen and Soho. Now we see that they are protecting a perimeter once again, and on Queen Street. We're not sure what has led to this, but I can tell you people are milling around a lot. People, yes. Many of them just taking pictures. See the gap there on yes. that one corner? I guess that's Peter Street.
It is Peter, and we're looking now from the north side of Queen toward the southwest side of the street. And what we just saw live, Stephanie, was police, a bit of activity, movement, and a lot of the protesters running from the lineup of police, and a little bit of police activity behind the main line. Farah Nasser, you're on the ground. What can you tell us?
Real quick, like you might be standing here, somebody
Farah?
Like 20 yards all at once.
Well, and we can hear that there's a lot of activity going on out there, a lot of yelling, and we're trying to surmise just exactly what's going on right now and what has caused this latest turn of events. But you know what? We are just observing this for many hours now. You can see that things can turn on a dime. We're hearing from Farah, and we're hoping to get her on the phone, that apparently yes. someone was trying to instigate police, and they rushed at him with shields. Maybe this is the aftermath of that situation. I'm holding on Queen Street West, just near Peter.
That's just 2 blocks from us here at 299 Queen Street West, and it appears that there are observers, perhaps protesters, whoever created the situation that had police still lined up right across the north and south side of Queen Street, and had the protesters, the people gathered there, running. We're not clear as to what